Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chair Sessions with Dr. D. Today's guest is an artist who is not afraid to evolve, grow, and reinvent himself. His previous albums reflect a genre-stretching blend of country funk and roadhouse blues. Sam Morrow is on the line with us today from Tennessee. He's touring, and he's going to talk to us about his latest reboot as reflected in his latest project, Southern Boogie. Welcome aboard, Sam Morrow.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time and coming on. So we've got quite a bit to talk about. You've had a lot going on over the last year or so, and even before that. And congratulations. I know you recently were married. Talk about a reboot, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna.
You could call it that.
We'll talk about your musical journey in the context of your catalog. For our new listeners that are just getting acquainted with you and your music, where'd your musical journey start for you? At what age and where?
So it started, I guess it kind of started when I was maybe 11 or 12. I started kind of playing music at church, which is kind of par for the course when it comes to growing up in the South. You know, I feel like most musicians kind of start in the church.
Sure.
Started playing guitar, and then realized I could sing a little bit. So started singing and stuff there, and then my music taste kind of expanded, and got to where I was, I don't know, had like a hardcore kind of emo phase there for a while. And then, I had like a phase where I was, listening to electronic music and stuff. And so I've kind of been through it all. Then in 2011, I got sober, and I made like a sad bastard folk record, which is what you do, I guess, when you get sober, But I just had a lot. I just had a lot of like feelings, I guess, at the time that I needed to write about, and then my sound just kind of evolved from there,
That's some background. So starting in the church, so would you say, did you start out with like spiritual music, almost, gospel music, or?
Yeah, like gospel and like, I don't know what they call like praise and worship.
Yeah, praise and worship.
That kind of like contemporary stuff, was kind of what I started in, which kind of like got me used to like playing with a band. Because normally, like a lot of times when you play music in church, especially like the contemporary stuff, it's just a bunch of like older dudes that are like old rockers and stuff, or guys that were like in a band and now they, are reborn.
Yeah, praising and worshiping.
Or they have kids now that go to church, and so I learned a lot from those guys.
When you were first doing it, were you going through the motions, or were you really feeling it?
No, I loved it. It was like kind of I knew like from the jump that it was like a passion.
You could feel it.
I could feel it, and you get a little. There's like a weird blurry line between like, is it the music that I feel, or is it the presence of God? You know what I mean? Or maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah.
I knew that it made me feel something that I liked, and wanted to keep doing. Maybe something. It was like somewhere where I was comfortable.
Yeah.
Socially, I'm kind of have some anxieties and stuff like that, but I felt good on stage. I didn't. It wasn't really a problem for me, you know?
That's awesome. It was almost, it's like that spirit, whatever it is the faithful spirit or the spirit of the music, whatever running through you, kind of like allowing you to overcome, like you said,
Right.
some of that social anxiety, whatever, nervousness there might have been. So was some of that anxiety, nervousness, what kind of helped propel some of the difficulties that you talked about a few minutes ago about, going into recovery?
Yeah, I think that, like, just, I don't know. I think for me, I just kind of wanted to, I'm just kind of try everything once kind of person.
Uh-huh.
And I tried something more than once,
Yeah.
in this case.
Yep.
But I think that, like, at that point in my life, I was just very, like, exploratory. And, there's this sort of, like, especially when you're, like, young and impressionable, you want to be like your heroes, and you feel like, oh, well, this is my heroes took this to write this or whatever, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
But when you're young and you don't really know, that's just what it is, and yeah. And I think, like, I was just trying to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be, and I just kind of got caught up in drugs and alcohol, and
Easy to do. Easy
yeah,
to do.
yeah, it is easy to do. And I'm for someone with my personality, it is very easy to do, and I was just lucky to figure out, like, at a pretty young age that I cannot do that. I'm just not built like that.
What
just
was
me,
your awakening? Like, at what point did you say, "Oh man, like I got to turn this around"?
Well, I think I was talking to a therapist when I was in rehab, and at that point I had, like, sort of made the decision that, like, I was going to stop doing opiates and heroin, which is kind of like that's what got me, I guess. I was kind of a sort of a garbage can. I would just kind of take anything, but
Yep.
but that was kind of what took me down. And I knew that I had to stop doing that, but I wasn't. I was 20 years old, so I was like, I really say right now I'm not going to drink or smoke weed and stuff for the rest of my life. That was a little scary to me.
Yeah, it sounds like
And
something so foreign at that age, right?
oh yeah, I mean, it's just daunting. And my therapist, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, where I said I would try anything once. He said, well, why don't you try it? Why don't you try sobriety for like a year? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. For some reason, it just kind of hit me like, shit, I can do that. I can try it for a year, whatever. I'm young. And I don't know, my life just kind of got a lot better. And I started, just sort of taking it one day at a time, that the old adage,
Yeah,
one
right
day
on.
at a time,
Yeah.
which is, people might cringe when you say that, but it's probably the most important thing in my entire sobriety is one day at a time. Like,
Right on.
pretty much the only thing I've done right throughout my sobriety is just not get high. Everything else I've done wrong a million times, so, but that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And here you are on the other end and making great things happen and fueling a momentum. Yeah. After your that reboot and that period of recovery, kind of, what did that allow you to do to propel things forward?
I mean, it just gave me like some clarity and
Yeah.
of when I was like running around, just doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I used music as like just a reason to not have a real job, or a reason to not be in school or whatever. I mean, I knew it was a passion of mine, but I wasn't focused on it. And so, when I sort of got my head on straight, it was something that I focused on. And I started really writing songs, which I I've kind of done in the past, but not really, you
Well,
know?
do you feel like recovery, recovery requires a lot of introspection, a lot of insight. Do you feel that the
Sure.
recovery
Yeah.
process kind of helped you become a better writer?
Oh, yeah, I think so for sure, and like a more vulnerable
Yeah.
writer, my songs these days are not very vulnerable.
Hmm.
But like I would say my first two records are, very vulnerable and like kind of sad bastardy sort of songs, and the songs are like deeply personal, like
Yeah.
songs that you would write with the candle lit or something like that.
Yeah. So it kind of connected you to the vulnerable parts that maybe before recovery, they're scary places to go to for anybody really.
Sure. Yeah.
So connect you to that. So did your musical influences change your musical heroes? Like you were talking about heroes earlier. Did you have heroes before recovery that changed, or did they stay the same?
I think that once after I really started exploring music, and I would say that my heroes, for the most part, have changed. Besides maybe like bands like ZZ Top, and
Sure.
that was one that's been like consistent throughout my whole life. That's kind of it's what my dad was listening to. My dad saw them as a garage band when he was a kid in Houston, like literally in a garage.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that was just kind of I would say like I started really exploring music more once I started writing it, because I just had a hunger to learn more about it, and like not only like, oh, I like this, but oh, I like this. Why did they do this? Where did this come from? Who are they influenced by?
Yeah.
Is
The
what I
deeper
started diving into.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the deeper dive, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Took the deeper dive. So your musical journey started in Houston. That's where you grew up, right?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah.
And then at one time, I think you had gone out to California.
Yeah.
Was that
I moved
before
there when I
recovery?
was like 20. No, that was like right. It was after, basically.
After
I went
Mhm.
to rehab out there, and then
Okay.
just stayed out there basically.
Hmm.
And I lived there for like 12 years, I think.
Okay.
Longer than I really wanted to, but it would definitely. I met some great people, and I learned a lot living there. Learned a lot playing with different musicians there, and learned a lot just about music while I was there. So,
What led up to your first release was 2014? Is that right? Ephemeral.
yeah, ephemeral. Yeah.
So what led up to that? Where were you? And what?
I mean, that was like three years after I got sober. So I was in California, and
Okay.
that's like probably that's the Sad Bastard folk record, if
Okay.
I've ever had one.
Uh-huh.
But like some of those songs are some of the best songs I've written, but it's just not the if you listen to that record, it's nothing like how I sound today.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Ephemeral? Lessons learned, or you want to talk about any players on that one, or anything that stands out
man,
for you?
it was so long ago, but I mean, a lot of the players that played on that played on like the next couple records too. Sasha Smith, who played keys, played on the next couple records, and they were all produced. It was produced by Eric Horn.
Oh yeah, 40 Below, right?
Has produced 40 Below has produced like 4 or 5 records.
Okay.
I've worked with him on. He's great. So yeah, I mean, it's just like kind of a record that it was a learning experience for
Awesome.
me. You know, I'd never done that before. So
And you didn't waste no time, because then in 2015 you released "There Is No Map."
yeah, yeah,
What do you
yeah.
want to
That
say about
one
that?
was a little bit. I would say a little bit more upbeat, if you will. I was kind of like starting to lean a little bit more country and experimenting a little bit more. I I kind of I'd made a record, so I kind of like understood the process a little bit more. And so I was able to kind of take more chances and know how to like translate stuff from, you know, what's going on in my head onto a record. So yeah, it was just kind of another learning thing for me, and there's some great songs on that record too. Yeah.
And it sounds like that those the first two that led up to some great experience, and then "Concrete and Mud" that
Yeah.
got some pretty good exposure and acclaim.
Yeah.
2018, right?
Yeah, 2018. That was probably like my most successful record, and um it definitely like kind of put me on the map a little bit. Um it's more like kind of funky country vibe to it. Um that record feels like my first real record. Not that the others weren't real, but
Right.
it was almost like a different project, like the first two, you know, and that one feels like more like my first record.
No, it sounds like you took a lot of the learning and skills and kind of like
Yeah,
really refined them in "Concrete and Mud," and
yeah,
you probably could hear it and feel it, and so for you it felt like if that one felt different than the first two, maybe like, oh this is what it's supposed to feel like.
yeah, exactly. I really do feel we've even like thought about like on Spotify and stuff like that, like changing the first two records to Sam Austin Morrow and making all the records from there on out Sam Morrow.
Hmm.
Just because they are like so different,
Yeah.
and yeah, that Concrete and Mud really feels like my first record that I really well, I don't. It just feels like my first record. I don't
Yeah,
really
no,
know how else
I
to
think
put
I
it. You
understand.
know?
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah,
you characterized it pretty clear. And it's kind of like it's like the stages that you were going through. Even like you
right,
said, like
right.
changing, even though you maybe changing a name, adding a middle name or whatever. It's kind of like reflecting a different stage in your
Yeah, yeah,
creative development, creative, whatever you want to call it, persona. Uh,
yeah,
and I don't even like the word persona, because one thing that I really respect and value about all of your work that I have heard, and knowing what I know about you, meeting you at the Lizzie Rose last year, shooting some video, is this sense of authenticity that just shines through all of your work, and in the transaction, in the few times we've met, your personal, just the way of being, that sense of authenticity, and I view that, especially with creativity, as such a superpower.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah. I
authenticity
think
is definitely one of your superpowers.
yeah, I think so. I I sometimes have trouble. Sometimes I wish I was a little bit less so. Like I mean that in like
Less authentic.
well, I mean that in like I think sometimes when you're like super authentic, you aren't maybe as much as like you have trouble like playing to the crowd, or
Yeah,
you have, a lot of the like most successful people are completely different than they are on stage.
yeah.
And I have trouble with that. Like I have trouble being a different person on
Uh-huh.
stage than I am off stage.
Well, it sounds like
it-
you'd like to
you
keep it
know,
real,
it's yeah. I
on and
mean,
off
I
the stage.
just like I get like a physical aversion to
Uh-huh.
to that kind of stuff. I mean, and I think that, but I think that like to your point, like when being creative, you have to be kind of selfish.
Yeah.
Um, you have to a real artist, and not even necessarily calling myself a real artist, but just a real artist in general, uh, has to do it for themselves.
Agreed.
Um,
Yeah,
you
I don't.
can't do it for anyone else. You
Yeah,
know.
that's and that's that comes out. I love this book by Rick Rubin. Producer Rick Rubin's got this book
Yeah.
out, The Creative Act, and that's one of his big themes, concepts that permeates a lot of the book is that you have, it's almost like if you want to create something that's authentic, and he believes that your best work is the most authentic work, and that your most authentic work comes out when you're doing it for no one but yourself first.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's sort of a paradox, I think,
yes,
where you're trying to do it so that other people consume it
yeah,
and accept it or buy it,
yeah. Well,
but
that's
at the same time, the best stuff is going to be made when it's not made for those people.
yeah.
You know.
The
Um,
paradox probably comes in with on the business end of it,
oh,
which
sure.
we
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
is like
That fucks up everything, man.
exactly when business gets involved. But it's
Yeah.
about selling tickets, it's about selling merch, it's about all of that. But at the end of the day, everybody's ideas of success can be different.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And as far as the authenticity goes, do you think being in recovery too and going through the recovery process kind of facilitates more authenticity if you weren't already prone to it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that, I mean, one of the core pillars is just honesty.
Yeah,
And if you're not being honest with yourself, you can't really be honest with anyone else. So
right.
it just kind of starts there. And it was definitely, I've gotten a lot just from a lot of principles from sobriety, and just obviously clarity to kind of discover what my principles are.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not perfect. I'm not always honest. Like, but I try to be. Because
Yeah,
what is it they say? You're as sick as your secrets.
yeah.
And I fully subscribe to that.
And
'Cause
we're
I've had
human, right?
even in sobriety, I've had secrets, and
Sure.
this for the last like 3-4 years, I felt better than I ever have, because I feel like I don't have any of those.
It's like such a
Um,
weight, right? That you
oh
kind of
yeah, it is. And you don't really realize it when you're in it.
no
You don't really realize how much of a weight it is
until you get rid of it.
until it's off of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, holy shit.
Yep. And so and
How
that's
was I
like
doing that?
yeah, it's like the next level of rebirth or revival even, and when you
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
clear that extra space, it creates space for more of what you want to manifest for your, as far as goals and your vision for yourself, your
yeah,
life.
absolutely.
So Concrete and Mud, you went from there a couple years later to Getting By on Getting On.
Yep. Yeah, that one was like kind of my so with
Getting By on
Concrete and
Getting
Mud.
Down. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. When I did Concrete and Mud, people kept calling me like I'm an outlaw on that, and I didn't really like that. Um, so I kind of like said to myself, like, I don't want to make another country-ish record, which
Mhm.
might not have been like the best business decision. But I did it. I had to kind of say what was true to me.
I was just going to
And
say, it gets back to the authenticity, and I remember some of the interviews that you did, because I remember watching them and listening to them, and it was, you could visibly tell like that it was very aggravating to that this was the way the people try to get artists into a box.
yeah, they
And
try to
nobody
like
wants to
sort
feel
of pigeonhole you a
yeah,
little bit,
right.
and I didn't feel like I was, like this outlaw or anything like that. And it just kind of made me, I didn't like the term.
Yeah.
Maybe view it, maybe it's a character flaw. I don't know. I don't really care.
Yeah, right.
But you know, it's so.
It motivated you to change something, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Getting By is kind of like more of a rock record. It kind of dipped more into rock and roll and blues, and yeah, it's more of a rock record, and I feel like it kind of kicked off where I am now. You know, it kind of kicked off the whole direction of where I wanted to go.
Yep. Now, were you out of LA by that point?
No, I was still there. I was still there. I left LA in 2022, I think. Yeah, what kicked it all off, and I was still kind of experimenting with the sound, and I don't think I had quite like found what I was looking for yet, but I was kind of searching. And I was just informed a lot by like how the shows were, how like the shows were. Like we were playing the songs that, you know, playing songs off Concrete Mud and the last two records, and the show was kind of turning into a rock show, just naturally.
So it was a different energy?
Yeah, it was a different energy for sure. And like the way that the songs were being interpreted was different than how they were recorded. So that like kind of inspired Getting By on Getting Down.
Nice.
And that was kind of like a turning point for me, like writing also. Like when Concrete and Mud, a little bit of this too, but I just kind of started taking myself a lot less seriously, sort of making fun of myself and songwriting, just coming up with quirky stories and stuff that wasn't even necessarily real, you know?
Yep.
But just like more storytelling and
taking the creative license.
Yeah, like way less personal. I mean, most of my songs are just about a flaw that I have, but I just say them I just kind of write it in a funny or quirky way, or act like someone else is the one with it or something like that, you know? That's basically how I write, you know?
So between Getting By on Getting Down and the next one, On the Ride Here, which was 2024, somewhere between those two, you moved out of LA.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I moved out of LA.
I was reading one of the interviews. You said that the move brought you an even deeper sense of clarity. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that like the kind of what I was talking about earlier, the secrets thing, was that was just sort of like lifted from me, and I felt just like more clarity, and I was able to kind of open myself up to more things creatively because I had just more bandwidth to do so. And I actually still recorded On the Ride Here in LA, and then I probably in like 22 or 23, probably both. I don't really remember. And then it came out in 24 after I had left. But yeah, I mean, I was still. It was just kind of like this is how I got here kind of record. That's On the Ride Here, you know. That's how I kind of took the title from. Well, not took it, but it was inspired by a Lil George record called Thanks, I'll Eat It Here. I mean, a lot of my records were just about. They kind of had like a journey theme, not the band Journey, but like you're on a journey, and I feel like that record was kind of like the culmination of whatever journey I was on, you know, and how it's more about the journey itself than the destination.
Yeah, amen. And so that brings us right up to the new one, Southern Boogie, and this is kind of like I heard in some interviews and some press releases and stuff. You You talk about this as a kind of like a reboot. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I think that this is like a rock and roll blues rock record. And I think that I think that rock and roll is making a comeback, you know. It's kind of gone away and gone like out of vogue, if you will.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, you know, 10 years ago, I kind of wanted to make a rock record, and I was told like, hey, that's not selling right now. You know, rock isn't in right now. And I was like, well, all right, I guess I won't do that, you know. But like, it's kind of what's always been in my bones, in my veins,
In your
you know.
DNA?
And my DNA is rock and roll, you
Uh-huh.
know, like
Right
even
on.
just like attitude and
Yeah.
you know, how I see the world, and I feel like that's rock and roll. Like it's a state of mind, if you will.
It
know?
is, sure
And I
is.
feel like this record sort of encapsulates that. You
So
know?
you moved from LA to Nashville, right?
Right, Nashville.
So so did that help the change of state of mind from LA to Nashville?
Yeah,
That sounds like a big
yeah. I mean,
big switch, no?
I think that the songwriting community in Nashville is a lot different than LA, and I think like I like it more. It's more of just like, hey, let's get together and write a song. You know, like you don't really have an agenda for it.
Yeah.
But just like, hey, let's get together and write a song because we like writing songs. You
Yeah.
know.
There's like an organic flow.
Yeah. And in LA, it's more like of an agenda and
A production.
yeah, and it's not as flowy, and so that definitely like sort of influenced it. And then, you know, I kind of knew like the direction I wanted to go just based on how the live shows were sounding. Like just my intention was kind of more rock and roll, and I've been a fan of this guy, Jonathan Tyler, for a while. He had a band called Jonathan Tyler and the Northern Lights.
Mm.
He's been around for years, and he was like signed to a major at one point and made a record that they canned because it was probably too cool, you know, or just not something that a major wanted to put out, which is probably means I would really like it. But yeah, he just kind of like been through the ringer, and he's kind of started producing the past, I don't know, few years or whatever. And I just felt like he was like the perfect guy to do it. And we picked up the phone and called him, and he just instantly like said to me what I wanted the record to sound like without me even saying anything to him. Like,
So he produced this one?
yeah, he produced it. Like we were just like automatically on the same page before I really even said anything. You know, he just kind of like understood it immediately. And yeah, he produced it and engineered it, and I think we just wanted it to sound like a band trapped in a room playing rock and roll.
Nice.
And I think we accomplished that.
So that's coming out around June 12th, but you've got a few singles from that album that have already been released. Is that right?
Yeah, we have Cruisin'.
Cruisin', yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome tune.
Yeah, they're both, yeah, I'm really happy with them. It's just hard to pick a single because I like really every single song on this record, and I think all of them could be singles.
The ones I've heard so far.
Yeah, I mean,
Saturday Night?
It was hard to do. Yeah, Saturday
another
Night
one,
is
man.
one that I really wanted to. It's going to be like the release day single, I guess.
Okay.
And I think we're going to do a video for that one. That one I really like. Wedding Ring and Juanita I really like. So yeah, In the Bag I really like. So In the Bag is, well, to put it bluntly, it's just about cocaine. So
The catharsis of getting that song out, was that part of the healing? Was that
yeah,
a
I mean,
healing?
I write a lot even
Okay.
to this day about drugs,
Uh,
or like I have a song called *𝘪𝘮𝘰𝘅
right. Yep. Yep.
that's basically just like personifying drugs. And I mean, they're fun to write about, especially fun to write about like in a nuanced way,
Right. Yeah.
where you can kind of hide it. I I think that's I mean, if you listen to In the Bag Now knowing that, you'll instantly be like, aha, I see what he's saying. um but yeah, I mean, it's I'm not someone that do what you want, I'm not that's the kind of stuff doesn't work for me, but maybe it works for you.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So Southern Boogie coming out June 12th. We're going to put links to your website and the release on the liner notes of this interview. And you're currently touring. You've got a show coming up in my neck of the woods at the Lizzie Rose Music Room,
Yeah.
making your return. Second time there on Tuesday, June 9th. Want to talk about
Tuesday. I know y'all don't have plans on Tuesday either. And there's no other shows going on that
on
day.
a Tuesday
but-
night, right?
Yeah, on a Tuesday night. So it's perfect. Perfect.
So
No, we're excited. Yeah, we're excited to make it back there.
what's the rest of the tour looking like?
We're kind of all up and down the Northeast in that run. Yeah, New York City, and we're going to Philly. Yeah, it's just sort of like the release tour, I guess. It'll be fun. I'm excited for the Lizzie Rose show.
So we get a preview of some of the Southern Boogie tracks.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely.
Nice.
I think by that that time it might be out, or what's the date of the Lizzie Rose?
June 9th.
Oh no, so technically, I'll have copies of it with me though, and I'll
Cool.
be selling it. And
Nice.
I mean, we're already playing about half the record live, so you'll definitely hear a bunch of the new songs and old ones, some new covers that we've thrown in. That'll be fun.
Looking forward to it. Sam Morrow, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking about your musical journey, the tour, and thanks for sharing and going on the deeper dive with me in the chair sessions here on your music and your albums and your songwriting. Really
Sure, yeah.
love it. I love what you're doing, the momentum you're fueling. Looking forward to the show at the Lizzie Rose. Good luck with the tour, and we will see you very soon.
Yep, thanks, Darren.
Thank you.